Hey, George, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
Yeah, I'm all right. Thanks for joining me here.
No problem.
I think you're one of the
Always
few.
good to talk about this kind of thing.
Yeah, I think you're one of the few people that has ever been in one of my podcasts, and I'd like to get more people, but a lot of people they shy away from this stuff. So anyway, tell the listeners a little bit about yourself. How old are you, and where are you from?
Yeah. I'm from the East Coast, the U.S., D.C. actually, and 42, and I've been here about a year. I started coming to Thailand for vacations every now and then about 15 years ago, but been here pretty much full time for a year.
So what actually what brought you here? What made you say I'm making the move?
Well, in my case, I think it's just after my first or second, maybe second or third visit, I thought, well, when I got to know you, that was part of it. I mean, I saw that there were expats, that people who found a way to live here. Some of them had jobs that they were transferred to by the company. Some of them made it on their own and just figured out how to piece together a life. And I think for about the next decade, hoping to be able to do that at some point, and finally did that.
Yeah. So you're up in Chiang Mai. What made you choose Chiang Mai as opposed to Bangkok?
Really, just the desire to. The main thing is that I wanted to be close to my friends, but I could have chosen to be in Bangkok or Phuket or something like that. But I did need to try to figure out a way to piece together my own life, because I didn't come here as a result of a transfer of an international company, and I needed to sort of hunker down into a place that wasn't very busy and didn't have too many distractions. And the weather is a little bit nicer up here too. It can get hot, but basically I wanted a low-cost, laid-back way of life, at least for now, the first year or two.
Yeah.
I wanted to be able to sort of concentrate on what I was doing and not be bogged down by too many distractions, and it's worked out that way so far.
Yeah, so let me ask you this, because, one thing that I'm always curious to know is, how do you think living in Thailand is different from coming here as a tourist, for a couple of weeks? Besides, when you're a tourist, you go out and you can blow money, and, most people save up money for a year or 6 months, then they go and they spend, $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, and they party their ass off, and then they go home. But when you're an expat, obviously you got to spend less. But what other than that have you found different from what maybe you thought as a tourist here?
As a tourist. Well, I was in that category for a long time, and I think that just by coming here off and on, I kind of slowly got into doing things that were less touristy, and I didn't always do the things that tourists do. I didn't always spend my. I started coming often enough where I could sort of ease into pacing myself and not feeling like I'm like a kid in a candy store, and I would just spend all my money. So in my case, it wasn't that big of or drastic of an adjustment, but I think what you do is you find out is you can very much transplant the parts of your life from your home country that you enjoyed the most and that you like the most, and you don't want to totally transplant your life from there to here. Being in Thailand is nicer, but I think that you can live a pretty laid-back, normal life here in Thailand. You're going to do work just like you did back home. You're going to have social time just like you did back home. You're going to have slightly more consumer inconveniences than you did back home. But overall, you can live a productive life here.
Well, I mean, I set my life up in the States to kind of to have less stress. I wasn't always successful, but here I got a hell of a lot less stress, and that's what I really like about it. I mean, there are inconveniences, and of course I get pissed off at things, taxi drivers who don't take you where you tell them to take you, or, that kind of stuff. But those are minor inconveniences. So, For
me, it tends to be more service-oriented and utilities and some of the comforts that we had back home. Quality doesn't really exist in most categories of consumer products here, unless it's imported, and you pay for that dearly. You pay more than you pay at home. The things that are produced here locally that aren't really consumer products are much more enjoyable. And I think, that comes to things like food and
especially when you're paying less.
Local materials and teak wood and art and some of those things that are really great. They're cheap, but you're not going to get a quality couch for cheaper than you get a quality couch back home, for example.
No, I mean, I have a sofa. I've had it for, I probably had it for 6 years now. And it's a sofa, and it's a big sofa, and then there's a footrest, and then there are two chairs, end chairs that go with it, and then I think there's one footrest for one chair, and I had to pay extra for that, and I think I paid about it was about, with the footrest and everything, it was about 36,000 baht. So I think at the time it worked out to about $1,250, which
I think that's still pretty close to what it is now.
It's close. I mean, you can get a sofa for $5,000, but I mean, for just an average. Is that a
Thai-made thing, or is that?
This was a Thai-made thing, and the thing that it's a nice sofa, and it's held up well, and anytime we want, we can go get it reupholstered, or and it won't cost us an arm and a leg, or just go have it cleaned or whatever.
I remember in this category, I remember that the two things that I had the most trouble were finding comparable quality for the price was cookware and linens. Those are the two categories of things that I remember.
I don't know. My wife takes care of that, so I don't worry about that. She handles all that. Although I will say I do go out, like I just went out and bought like one of those hot water makers, because the one we had before was just so old, and now we've got a rice maker, and that's, I mean, it's really old, so I'm going to go out and buy one. But I mean, you're talking about 1,000 baht. You're not talking about a huge amount of money.
Some appliances are very cheap here in terms of living. We might be getting off the topic a little bit, but I bought a very powerful blender that's probably equal to the Vitamix back home, which is $400. There are exceptions to the rule. You usually don't get comparable quality for the price or same price or less, but sometimes you do. There's a blender that you can get at I think Tesco or
you can usually find stuff.
And water kettles are cheap too.
The water kettles are really cheap, but you can find stuff that is at least decent quality. And if you want some stuff that's a higher quality, you go to what's that place, Vera Sue or some place like that, that specializes in that stuff. So
imported things,
imported stuff. But okay, so let's get on the main subject here, the main topic, which is the immigration, the recent immigration crackdown, because Thai immigration recently has stated that they're going to enforce stricter visa laws, so that there are no more turnaround border runs and no back-to-back visas. What I just read yesterday and maybe 2 days ago is that there are people going to get tourist visas after being in Thailand for 90 days, and they are telling them you need to be out of Thailand for another 90 days before you can get another visa. So that's interesting. So I'm curious to know what you think about that, because I know you think slightly different than I do.
Is that 90 days? Is that concrete information that you heard from?
Well, it's happened a couple times already. That's concrete. It has happened to where people have been denied. One guy I think he was denied in Singapore. Another one was in Kuala Lumpur.
Yeah. The first thing I think to note here is there's two important points. One is you mentioned back-to-back visas. That's the big key that's in question. The other thing is that the second most important thing here is that.
You there? I think we're cutting out here.
I can hear you.
Okay, now I can hear you. Yeah.
Should I start over again or pick up where I left off, or what?
Yeah, just pick up where you left off.
I should say the two important things that we need to take away from this is, one, is the back-to-back is the people that are the most vulnerable, the continuous visas. And then secondly is that there's no absolute clear guidelines being issued by immigration that cover all or even most categories. There's are you there?
Yeah.
Are you there?
I'm here.
Okay. Okay, I just heard a noise. There's quite a bit of people. There's quite a lot of information out there. Some of it's misinformation, but there's quite a lot of people talking about their experiences, and certainly some people being denied visas based on the new rules, and some people saying, yeah, nothing's changed for me here, there, or the other.
Well, nothing's going to change now because the date has not been. It hasn't. We haven't reaced the date yet.
Yeah.
I mean, we haven't. It's August 12th, and they
not the airport level. We reached the date for the border crossings, and even.
They just came out like 2 days ago and said, August 12th, we want you to know that as of August 12th, we are going to enforce this stuff. And they also, they must have forwarded the information to the embassy, the U.S. embassy, because the U.S. embassy said, from now on, you're not going to be able to come in and go for 30 days and get an extension and then go out for another 30 days and get an extension. You need to go out and get your visa. That's what Thai immigration is saying, and we can't help you. So they issued that letter, which is a lot more than was done in the past.
Yeah, but it still doesn't cover exact parameters for. I know about 6 or 7 years ago there was a rule that it was pretty clear that if you got a visa, however many days you're in Thailand, you need to match that with being out of Thailand. Yeah. And I don't know if that's applying this time.
Well, I think they're trying to model themselves after how it was in India, where I think you could stay for 6 months and then you couldn't come back into the country for another 6 months. So, but they're doing that with 3 months, 3 months, and 3 months. The thing is what I've read is that, well, if you want to stay longer than the 3 months, then you need to go to a place that's going to issue a multiple entry tourist visa. Because if you don't, then
after that happens, which is I'm on my second one of those now. We can talk about that if you want. What happens then? And are you going to have to? Obviously, you can't get multiple non-visa entries. That's pretty much a thing of the past. That's the first thing that goes away. Just border running.
Yeah, but
30
see,
days.
this
but
is where now I have absolutely no problem with them doing away with that, because why do you need? There's guys who are saying, well, I'm going to stay here for 6 weeks and I don't want to have to get a visa. Well, tough shit. It's not about what you want. It's about what's good for the country.
Okay, right.
Now with the tourist visas, I kind of understand that. People are upset and they're worried about it. And I actually think that maybe what they should do is say, listen, we will allow a multiple entry visa for a year, so you get, 4 entries, I guess. But after that, you can't come back into the country for another 3 months or 6 months. That I could understand. If they do it to where you're only allowed 1 entry, I think they're kind of shooting themselves in the foot.
I'm actually opposed to any sort of be out for this minimum period of time. If you're paying for entries, they should make their entries for sale.
What they don't want is, let me ask you something. What tourist is in a country for 5 years?
Uh-huh. Well, they don't have a. You're not a tourist. You're a resident at that point, obviously, but they don't have any provision. So
yeah, they
if
do.
You're not working, they got to classify you somehow.
What are you talking about? If you got a tourist visa, you're a fucking tourist. That means you need to leave the country out of a certain after your visa expires. So if they give you 1 year, how long do you want to be a tourist? If you're going to study in university or you're going to study Thai or whatever, then okay, get the ED visa. That will give you additional time. So I think there's provisions for everything.
Yeah. The broken thing is that they don't quite cover everything. They don't cover someone who just wants to be a non-working resident expat and who has independent financial means. They hope that you fall into one of these categories.
Well, I think what they do is they're thinking
they're an investor.
They have an investment visa. Okay. Yeah. Well, that's quite a bit of money. It's like 10 million baht. And then
not really in the picture for most guys.
Yeah, okay, but I understand in that sense that okay, you want to invest, you got to invest. We're not talking about invest $2,000. That's not what it is. But they also have that elite card, which gives you 5 years, and it's 500,000 baht. So if you got 500,000 baht, you can stay for 5 years in the country. And all you have to do is do your extension every year, if I understand correctly.
I couldn't hear you. How much is it?
It's 500,000 baht.
500,000 baht.
And that gives you 5 years.
It's a fair chunk of change, but it's not.
Yeah, but the thing is you've got to understand something. I mean, you know, listen, I want to go live in Tahiti. Okay? Honestly, I do. I'd love to go live in Tahiti. However, I don't know if I could make enough money to live as the way that I want us to live and be able to get out of the country when I feel like it's important to get out of the country or when I need to get out of the country. I'd love to go live in some other places, but, you know, it's not possible. And the reason it's not possible is because they make certain guidelines for a reason. If you don't have the 500 grand, okay, listen, you're saying, oh, if you don't fall into one of these categories. Okay, so if you're under 50 and you have financial means, show the 500,000 baht. It's not that much.
They don't really care about the low-hanging fruit. The masses contributing to the economy. They want a big lump sum, or you're not allowed to contribute to the Thai economy.
Well, what I'm saying is, you know, they've got to have some kind of boundaries. They have to have some guidelines. So they do have guidelines. They have a guideline that if you're fit, listen, I was 49 years old, and I wanted to stay here on a retirement visa, okay? I was barely making enough money, but the problem was it wasn't coming from, it wasn't all coming from one place, and it was a pain in the ass for me to show it. So the thing is that once I hit 50, okay, I'm in the category. Right. Until then, it's like, okay, I'm not, you know, there's no other way to do it. If you want to stay here, you got to show 500,000 baht, or you got to go for an investment visa, or you have to get a job here and be sponsored by a Thai company or make your own company. So there are ways to do it. It's just that the people don't like the ways that you have to do it. It's like, well, you know, listen, you can come into the United States, but, and, you know, you have to, let's say you know, you're Mexican and you can come into the United States, but you have to show that you have $25,000. Okay, well, they're giving you a way to do it. If you have $25,000, you can come in. It may not be fair, but they have given you the guideline. Now, if you can't do that, you have to look at another way. So what's the other way? Well, there are no other ways. If you're under 50, there is no other way. So you've got to get, you know, the elite card. That, you know, that's another option. And
yeah, that's for the 1% or the top 2%. You're not. Most people aren't.
Okay, but like I was saying, if I just want to, you know, like I wouldn't mind living in Mexico for a while. I wouldn't mind living in Tahiti. I wouldn't mind living in you know, what's the Cook Islands or you know, what's the place where the guy from the boat, the guy that's the Mutiny on the Bounty, Fletcher Christian, where his family, Pitcairn Islands. I wouldn't mind going and staying there for 6 months or a year. I'd love to be able to go do that stuff, but the country makes it to where you have certain stipulations you need to meet, and if you don't meet them, then you can't. You can come as a tourist, but you can't live there. So if you want to come as a tourist, if you want to come to Thailand, okay, come to Thailand. Maybe you get a double entry visa. You come and you're here for 6 months. And then you go to Cambodia for 3 months. And then you come back and you stay here for another 6 months. I mean, you know, we're not talking about people who are setting up shop here and making a house, building a home, building a life, you know, like I am. We're not talking about these people. The people that are complaining, they are not setting up shop, most of them. It's not like they're setting themselves up for the rest of their lives. I mean, even you are not sure how long you're going to stay here, right? I mean, you know, it depends on how things work out for you. So here's the thing. There's a lot of places that I would like to go live, okay? Yeah. But it doesn't, you know, listen, I'd love to go to Bali and live there for 6 months and see if I would like to set up a house there and actually truly live there. You know, it's like to where I come and I stay there for 9 months out of the year. Now, even you're in a position where, you know, you're kind of waiting to see how, you know, things go in the next year or so, and then you're going to determine, do you want to stay here or do you not? And what I'm saying is the majority of the people who don't fall into the categories of being able to get a visa, okay, those people are not the kind of people who are saying, oh, I'm going to live here and I'm going to buy a house and build a house and I'm going to stay here for the rest of my life. Most of those people, that's not them. That's my opinion.
They're contributing through normal living on the economy means, which is a much lower level than obviously dropping, 500,000 baht all at once.
Or actually
in the economy.
Or actually paying to be legal so that the Thai government can trace you and they know how many people they have. Which right now I think they don't know how many people they have that are working, how many that aren't working, how many of it are lying, how many of it are doing this, doing that,
Right.
And I think they're actually trying to wean themselves off of the illegal tourists.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what kind of problems Singapore has with illegal workers, but I know that you can get a permanent residency there fairly easy, whereas in Thailand, it's a huge pain in the ass.
No, you gotta fit into one of the other categories that they like. It's certainly easier in Singapore, and I think there's a lot of people that would love to be able to contribute at a lower cost than the elite card to being able to.
Yeah, but why would the government want them to do that?
Exist.
What do they have to offer? I mean, why not just get an ED visa? Why not work for a company here? Because the way that they look at it is, if you don't have the skills to live here, if you don't have the skills to contribute to the society, then what are you going to do here? How many fucking retirees do you think they want here from another country? I think they're worried about that. And also, you got to remember that they're xenophobic.
What's good for Thailand? I think there are some bad apples here, but I also
Can I what?
I think just having income is enough for Thailand, but they don't seem to think that. They don't seem to
I don't think
that,
it
but
is.
I think it's just having enough income.
Well,
hello?
I'm here. God damn it.
I can't hear you.
All right. I don't think that just having an income is enough. Okay?
Yeah.
I mean, there are reasons why. I mean, it's like, listen, why don't you just ask, all of Al-Qaeda and the Taliban to come here because they got the money to stay here. I mean, it's like anybody. My thing is, listen, to me, like one other thing that I don't particularly like is people coming here on no visa entries, and then they think they can open a bank account. Well, why the fuck should they be able to open a bank account? If you want a bank account, at least have a visa so that you can be tracked. Because if you just come in, I mean, I guess it's easy enough to fake it anyway, so maybe it doesn't matter. But to me, it's like if you're going to go through the steps to get yourself a proper visa, then you should be able to get a bank account. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree.
You need to be able to do those steps to show you. It's just like going to school. Going to university might not do a freaking thing for you, but at least it shows an employer that you were able to finish university. You know what I mean? So you can finish a job, So in that sense, I think they're similar, and I just think.
But they don't seem to care that much. They obviously want to pick and choose. I think what this policy of income, basic income, to live on the economy and contribute to the economy that way, it's not enough for them to want you here. That's obviously their policy, and we have to live with that.
But what I was saying is, they're in a sense,
they're missing good people, but
they're xenophobic, man. They don't really, the old saying, they want your money, but they don't want you. And, there comes a point where it's like, okay, you've given enough money. We know you've been here and you're serious enough. All right, you can stay. But if you're just some guy passing through, you're just a ship in the night, they don't want you here. That's the whole point. I think that's their mentality. I don't know, but, obviously I can't speak for them, but that's what I think.
Yeah.
So let me ask you.
Their policy, and so. Right.
Yeah, I know you don't have a whole lot of time, so let me ask you this other question. What do you think about the two-tier pricing?
Do you want to go back to the visa before we go to two-tier pricing?
Well, I don't know. What do we got to talk about?
I don't know. What should people do?
Well, they do what they got to do. If you can get the visa, you can get the visa.
Or are we just going to say, basically, you can...
Listen, I'm not the fucking answer guru. I mean, I just tell it how I think it is, and that's enough. And if the answer is in those answers, then great. If it's not, then it's not. I mean, if you don't have any fucking money and you don't have any skills, don't fucking come here other than for a fucking vacation. figure it out before you come, and then set yourself up to where you're legitimate, and then there should be no problem. You know what I'm saying? There's too many people. You think about it. You know how many fucking people I get that send me messages every week that say, I want to come to Thailand. I don't know what to do, but I'm a great plumber here. I'm the manager in my company. Well, it's like, they don't give a fuck. What are they gonna? You think they're gonna just let British people or American people just come into Thailand and just become the next plumber for Korat or for Bangkok?
Oh no, there's no way.
Of course. So this is the thing. So that's you have a trade if you're a plumber.
That's never gonna happen. No country like that.
Yeah, but listen, if you're a plumber, you're a refrigerator repairman, whatever the fuck it is, you got a skill, okay? But what I'm talking about is guys who maybe, they didn't finish school. They don't really have the street smarts to be able to hustle up and figure out, hey, listen, I got to make some money. How am I going to do it? They don't have enough technical skills with a computer. They don't have an education where they finish to where Thailand is going, wow, we really need somebody like you. So if you're basically, I don't want to say unskilled because that's not what you are. That's not what somebody is that just because of that. But in the view of the Thai government, you don't have the skills that are necessary to be here. If it was 20 years ago, I wouldn't be here. You know what I mean? If I had done now what I did then, I might not be able to make it. I just got in when the going was good. I was lucky. That's it. It's not like I'm, some fucking rocket scientist, But.
Well, yeah, you were able to take advantage of some of the technology that was not available 20 years ago.
Listen, when I first came here, it was like, oh, maybe I'll fax the woman that was working for me. Maybe I'll fax her and maybe I can get an email to where I can email her this. And if I really have to, I'll call her. You know what I mean? Like it was so limited back then. And I didn't even think about like, oh, you're working, because it was like, listen, I'm just calling to check up on my business. You know what I mean? That's kind of how it was then. It was like, oh, I got a business in the U.S. and I need to take care of it. And, the thing is that some of the, if I call and if I can fax and email, then what it'll help me do is continue to make money and stay on top of things instead of just going, well, I'll call once in a while and go, everything okay? And if it's not, you're just like, oh, too bad. So technology has definitely helped in that sense, and it helps people now. But I think that, Thailand is caught up as far as knowing what's what. And they don't want people here working illegally because, I don't know, how it's going to affect the economy and all that kind of stuff. I'm not an economist, but, anyway, so let's move on because I think we beat that to death. So get on to I want to know about, what do you think about the double pricing, triple pricing that goes on here?
Well, I don't know of anybody that approves of it or likes it, except when it's a foreigner, because it doesn't take advantage of. Well, I guess I should amend that. There's probably some people that think it's fair because some of these things are benefits of citizenship, and we have that too. I don't mind if it's something like a national park. For example, I went to try to go to the waterfalls up here last week, and there was. Actually went out with very little cash, which was unwise, but I had forgotten that it's only 15 minutes, it's no big deal, I'll go back this week or next week, but 100 baht for foreigner and 20 or 40 for Thai, and that's a national park, and that is a benefit of citizenship, and I don't really object to that kind of thing.
Let me ask you this.
But when it comes to trinkets or food or
well, I think you got to negotiate with that, whatever. I mean, business is business. You're trying to do business. Okay, I understand that, in a sense. But what I'm talking about is, like, I have a retirement visa. I have 2 children with my wife here. We pay for them to go to a private school. It's like I put in a shitload of money into this economy, and then I go and I show my retirement visa, and they go, oh, sorry, you got to pay, 20 times more than what the Thais are paying, and your kids are Thai. And then I want to, part of me wants to go, fuck you. My kids are American. Just because they're born here, you know what? They're half American and half Thai. So guess what? Today I want them to pay more because they're American. Fuck you.
Right.
They're American. And the guy will go, okay, fine, pay. You know, you pay what you want. But the fact is that they can be considered Thai. Now, I'm not Thai, and, you know, I'm sorry, but I don't ever want to be Thai. I'm happy to be American, okay? Just because I live here doesn't mean I don't like being American. But what I don't like is that here I am, I've got a retirement visa, or somebody that is living and working here full-time, or they're married to somebody, and they have the proper visa, and then somebody at some fucking national park just sits there and goes, oh, sorry, you got to pay fucking 20 times more. I don't like that.
Yeah.
Now, if you're a tourist, listen, I don't like that either, but I can understand it more than somebody who, you know, I've got kids here, man. My kids are, you know, it's like my kids are going to be 18 in a few years. You know, it's like, it makes no sense to me, you know.
Yeah.
And I know a lot.
Well, I mean, for example, what I thought the park was a factor of, I think, 20 to 100.
Yeah, no, this was
okay.
20 to 200.
There has to be some benefits of citizenship.
Yeah, what?
National Museum, National Park.
Well, let me tell you something. That's one reason why I don't know if I want to become a permanent resident, other than once I become a permanent resident, I don't ever have to file for a fucking retirement visa or go out of the country. You know, I don't have to give an extension of stay or go out of the country or any other bullshit. I don't ever have to do that again. That's the only benefit that I see. Okay? And that, you know, that's a pretty big benefit. But, you know, really, when you think about it, so you spend a half a day at immigration once a year, it ain't that bad. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to bitch about that because it's not that big of a deal. But what else am I going to get if I'm a permanent resident? You know what I'm saying? It's like, if I'm not getting anything, then, you know, okay, I guess I get to stay here. You know, I guess you could say, oh, you're so fortunate to be here. And, yeah, I am. Because, you know, the Thai government doesn't have to let me stay here. But then you get to the point like where, you know, what should you just like, you know, should you just be thankful for the rest of your life that you're allowed to be here and, you know, get screwed around in other ways? I mean, you know, what the fuck's up with that?
Well, that's a part of life, yeah.
Yeah, well, it's you know, the thing is that all this stuff is a part of life.
Here, but only have options.
Well, all this shit's a part of life, but. You know, like what I say is because, you know, some people will say, oh, if you don't like it, go somewhere else. Well, fucking A, I might. And you know what? That means that if I am like many other people, if there are other people like me, and I dare say there are because I've talked to some of them, they'll take their ass somewhere else and go spend the money somewhere else. And, you know, maybe it won't affect Thailand because there's a lot of people that want to come here. But, you know, to me, it's like I would love to stay here because in general, I still don't know of a better place to stay. You know, you can bring up Ecuador, you can bring up, you know, all these other places, but I don't necessarily know. But they're, you know, it's like I said in one of my videos, the grass, it always seems like it's greener on the other side, but the thing is fucking grass is in 100 different shades of green. So what the fuck does it matter? The grass is green no matter where you go. You know what I'm saying?
The best thing that people should do, I think, is just to make sure they have options. If they are sure that they want to stay here and only here, and I do think it should take some time to make that decision, and they can't qualify for, you know, a retirement visa or an investor visa or a marriage visa, then why not study the language if you're so sure that you want to be here? Study the language, get an education visa. It doesn't take a lot of time, and I may do that next when the tourist visas run out.
I think it's a good thing to learn a language.
Multiple years. I don't think there's any problem with that.
Yeah. Okay, so that brings me to the last question, Georgie boy. What recommendations do you have for people thinking about moving to Thailand? And you kind of answered that in your last answer, but what recommendations do you have for somebody?
Yeah. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. Don't
have a backup plan.
Put yourself in a position where you have to figure it out here and you have to stay here. Have other options. Be mobile. Pack light. Be mobile. Have a maximum of 2 suitcases worth of stuff.
Yeah.
and come with a good sense of humor and some extra cash, because you will need it. And there will be things that you want that you can't get locally, and so you'll have, or there'll be things that you want that you couldn't bring, for example, that you'll need to buy. You'll need startup costs.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's something, you know, I mean, that's an old rule is bring more money and less stuff.
Bring more money. Have an income. Bring more money. Bring less stuff. And be able and willing to adjust. You're not going to have everything that you want. You can have most of what you want, but you're not going to have it all. Yeah. So I would say just be flexible and have cash. And don't come if you don't have those things, except as a tourist.
Well, yeah, you know what the one thing that I would say now, I always say, come for a couple of months if you can. You know, at least come for a vacation. I know people who are like, I'm moving to Thailand. Have you ever been here? No. I'm like, well, then what the fuck are you moving here for? Yeah. You know, I mean, like, I would never move to Ecuador unless I went there and checked it out for a few months. But the problem is that most people don't have, a lot of people, I don't want to say most people, but it seems like a lot of people don't have the financial means to do that. So they're just like, well, you know, I'm going to, it's sink or swim.
Suddenly, you've done your series on a number of posts on $500 a month. Is it possible? They think, as long as they get $500 a month, I can live in Thailand. No, that's not really true.
And the thing is that who the fuck wants to live off of $500? I mean, like, listen, I don't want to go out and pick berries all the time. I mean, you know, it's like one thing if I go, you know, go down south and we're staying at, you know, my wife's mother's house, and we're staying there, and, you know, we're picking mangoes and watermelon and stuff like that. Okay, you know, it's right in the back of the house. That's one thing. But, you know, it's like, I got to go down the street and pick some onions. I got to go pick some vegetables. I'm going to throw these little flowers. Listen, I mean, you know, I'm frugal, and I can be cheap at you know, sometimes. But when it comes to that kind of stuff, it's like, listen, I'd rather go to a market and just buy the shit. Because I don't want to spend all my time foraging for food. That's not my life.
Foraging is not what most of us foreigners come to Thailand.
I mean, I want to chill out. You know, I want to relax and have a good time and, you know, be able to go places sometimes. And I can pretty much do that. But, you know, when people come here in the beginning, you're going to spend more money than you will later on down the road once you've got everything wired. Because it's like, I know for a fact, like, if I want, I can go across the street and I can have some soup for 30 baht. Or I can get a bigger serving for 40 baht. I know I can go down the street and get something to drink for, you know, 10 baht. And I know it's cheaper than at 7-Eleven. You know, there's little things like that you learn and you pick up. And then all of a sudden you're like, hey, I just saved 500 baht for what? You know, I mean, really, I didn't do anything. I just kind of used my head, you know. And that helps.
Takes time and experience to figure those things out.
Yeah, definitely. So, all right. Well, I want to thank you again for joining us. Maybe we can do this again sometime.
Sure. Yeah.
We can talk about your love life or something like that, because I know every man is interested in women here. That's the number one topic in Thailand is vagina. I mean, women.
Is that your number one topic?
That's a joke. That's a joke, ladies. Actually, I'm starting to get some women who listen to my show, and one is an ex-prostitute who I forget where she says she used to work, but very nice lady, and yeah, she gives some good insight to, well, different insights, definitely. Anyway.
Okay.
All right. Well, it was
great.
It was nice talking to you. And until next time, I'm Scott. I'm an American in Bangkok. Chok di la Chiang Mai.